Hello, my name is Larry Casso. I'd like to welcome you once again to my studio. And we're about to look into a lesson that is something I've really enjoyed putting together for you. It's been the result of, or the results, I should say, of a 45-year love affair with every aspect of art imaginable, the history of it, enjoying the painting of it, the fellowship in it, and everything else that comes along with it. And this is somewhat of a culmination of this 45-year experience that brought me to a point where I achieved the goal I never thought I would, maybe sometimes wondered if I could ever achieve, and that is to discover a way to be able to draw the human body very quickly, concentrating more on the form and the gesture rather than anatomical accuracy, which I feel is something that is very beneficial. And if you're fortunate enough to have a medical illustrating background, or perhaps a background in an art institute that really stressed this aspect of this, it's a wonderful thing to have. But if you don't have this background, I wanted a way to, first of all, myself experience the fun and the joy of not just painting people. I can paint people very methodically, almost mathematically, precisely, and have accomplished many very satisfying commissions in my lifetime. However, I wanted that feeling that you can get when you do a painting and you capture a particular element that you enjoyed capturing, but you just want to add a human being in it. And you want enough to say what you want to say, but not really make the painting about the human being. In other words, it's a lesson that we're going to learn tonight, not about painting people, but about painting people in paintings. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's something that you're going to enjoy. And it's almost inconceivable the way that this came about. And I'll be sure happy and enjoy explaining that to you. I've just gathered some more reference material that I think will help with this explanation, but let's talk a little bit about the character that we have here. I guess I should come up with a name for him. He's quite out of shape, as you can see, in every kind of way. However, in the process of this long journey I've experienced to get to this point and being able to do this, I searched for many things, and I searched in many directions to try to find a vehicle that would enable me to do this. And I guess this all culminated when one of my students, a longtime student and friend, who's an architect, and an outstanding architect in our area, asked me one night why we did not paint people in our paintings. And I just told him very bluntly that I hate to admit this after being in this for 45 years, but I don't know how. And I can do a portrait. I've done very sizable commissions, but I've never had the experience of having this ability, or having been taught to have this ability to quickly sketch people into our paintings. And at that moment, I decided that I was going to put this together, and I was going to discover a way for my own enjoyment as well as the enjoyment and edification of my students. And so I started the mental process in attempting to do this. And this was probably within the last year or so, maybe a year and a half. This is this is October the 10th, 2003. It's probably in the last year and a half or so. And several things came into being that I'll just mention quickly because I find it quite amusing in the sense that when you put your mind to doing something and attempting to proceed in a particular direction and accomplish a goal, it's amazing the things that turn up that assist you, I should say, in being able to do this. And I have a number of things that you're going to see, and I'll have a lot of fun with these things later in explaining this to you. And if you're wondering why I keep talking about having fun and whatever, I think this is a subject that's possibly one of the most heavy subjects, you might say, in terms of most people that attempt to do art. They actually cringe when you try to tell them that it really is very simple to do the human figure and to be able to get the, not too much so much the figure, but the form and the gesture in somewhat of a stick figure, and then put the clothing in it, and in 10 minutes draw and possibly paint something that would add a lot of life and vitality to your paintings. And 2 or 3 things I'll mention very quickly. One of them is very important, and you're going to meet an employee that I have here. He's one of the best people I've ever had working for me, and or it's a she possibly, but anyhow, the name of this person is AR, and AR has been with me now for about a year or so, and I guess if you were going to put on a resume specifically the gender of this person, it's a skeleton. And I'm very indebted to my good friend, Dr. Ann Robinson, when she left the area for a while, the Baton Rouge area. I had borrowed this skeleton from her, and she donated it to me and donated it to the school, and I'm so indebted to her for doing that, because what it enabled me to do is every day I walked by and I looked at this possibly 2.5 to 3, maybe 30-inch skeleton on my desk, and I also got a hand and a foot. And later on, through the courtesy of another student, I got a skull that was her son's skull that he used in medical school. And so all of these things may seem kind of funny, but they helped me put all of this together. And as you start focusing on things, once you make a commitment in life to do something, it's amazing the things that just fall into your lap. And it just takes hard work and a lot of luck. And of course, we all know the saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that's true in anything, even in art. And so I was very happy to get the skeleton. And as I studied AR every day, and that was a nickname that was voted on by the school very affectionately after our friend, Dr. Robinson. I noticed that as I studied the skeleton in a way I would of course try to do it like I've always done things with my engineering background as a technical illustrator in the NASA space program. I would attempt to I would attempt to measure it. I wanted perfection. I wanted mathematical accuracy. And all of these things I had to throw out the window. And as I studied this person, and I began to take each part of the human anatomy and break it down, I realized, if I look at that chest long enough, or the rib cage, it kind of resembles a thimble. That would be a good shape to build this lesson around. And then I thought about, I could take an object like a spool of thread, and I could show that the rotation and the tilt of the hips. I could use the thimble to use the rotation and the tilt and so forth of the rib cage. And so let's see if we can get something that'll assist us in maybe having this stand out a little bit better. So I came up with a very small spool and a thimble. And let's see if I can get that to sit together like I want to. Now, this is almost difficult to even see it. But I think we can, let's move it up a little bit here. And we'll turn this. And I think that's close enough. Now, what we have here is an object that will help us considerably if we understand, holding this object up, that this is basically the same shape, somewhat, of the rib cage. Enough to make us aware of the symmetry of it, the proportions of it, and so forth. But I want you to notice, it's a little hard to see this, but you can actually take this and rotate it. You can tilt it. You can do a lot of different things with it. And I felt like, I could use this to really make people to visualize the human body, not photographically, like something flat on a two-dimensional plane, but to realize that the human body is made up of parts that can be rotated, tilted. The shapes remain the same. The form remains the same. And it's simply a matter of understanding the rotation, the tilt, what the variables are, and you could draw a person. Same way with the spool, okay? Now this spool, let's see if I can get this on the screen, okay? It can be rotated, it can be tilted, okay? And it could actually perform all the functions of a human hip in terms of describing how to draw this. And that was a very much of a major breakthrough for me. And I'll hold this up a little bit more where you can see it. Let's see if I can get this lined up on the camera. Okay, now it's a little hard to see it. It's a little hard to see it as an illustration. Now, I'm going to see if I can grab something real quickly. I'll later replace this with a couple of other items that have been very helpful. And let's see if I can possibly move the screen up a little bit. And this is where I came up with the idea of a paper cup, foam cup, and actually one of the best things for making the hips would be to take an actual paper towel roll and do what I did. I cut it down, put something on the end of it, sprayed it with white paint, and this is what I came up with. Now, what's so wonderful about this, and I know you think already, well, this is supposed to be something about human anatomy. What are we talking about here? Well, you're going to see in just a little bit. Because what you're going to find out is that these are the two main elements in learning how to draw a person. And once you learn to realize this, and to be able to look at a human being and understand what direction, what rotation, what tilt the chest is in, what rotation, what tilt are the hips in. It's going to tell you 90% of what you need to do to be able to do this. And we're going to spend a little time familiarizing ourselves with these shapes. Because remember, this is not about drawing. Okay? It certainly is about drawing, but it's not. It's about form, and it's about gesture. It's about understanding shapes and what happens when they're tilted forward, when they're rotated. Okay, and all the various movements, which are not that many in the human body. You could almost memorize them in 2 minutes. Okay, and once you understand each way that the human body moves, you're going to find that this is a classic way to learn to sketch people quickly, not to do people, though it'll help you to do that also, but to put people into your paintings. Okay, having given you this hopefully not too lengthy introduction to some of the concepts, I might mention that in addition to the spool, the thimble, my prized employee AR, and also the foam cup and the other item that I had for the hips that actually I felt made this so much more visible to me personally, but also in my teaching, it's so much easier to use it. I also had another item that was given to me as a gift from the Benson boys, and they're the two sons that are going to be at the workshop that I'm having with this particular subject today, along with their mother Sylvia, and they very graciously gave me a mannequin, I'll call it, of a very famous, shall we say, celebrity in animation today. And of course, I can't mention the name because it's copyrighted material, but it's a particular person that's been popularized recently greatly in movies and so forth, particularly in the different things that you can buy related to this animated character. And I'm not kidding you, it is absolutely the best proportionate animated thing I have ever seen on the human body. And it's unfortunate it's not made and produced, and probably will be, since I'm mentioning this, by someone just for anatomy students. I mean, the fingers move. It simulates the movement of the human body as easy as any, or as much as anything I have ever seen. And they gave me this as a gift. And I owe Mark and Romy a lot in that experience, because this is not about medically perfect knowledge about the human body. It's about seeing. It's about visualizing. It's about having fun drawing the human body, and that's what we're going to proceed to do. So we'll come back later and give our good friend here a name. But the significance of this piece of material, the first time I described this to one of my classes, I had no idea of putting a person together. And I just happened to take the thimble and rotate it and tilt it and show the form, and to show how easily a flat object can become a three-dimensional object. And I did the same thing with the spool. And the next thing I knew, I drew the legs, the arms, and I couldn't believe how easily this came together and gave me the animation, even though the proportions and so forth were not exactly correct. This was a major breakthrough for me. And so it was well worth the time sharing it with you, because it illustrates something that I believe in very strongly about life and about attempting things in life, that if you believe in something and you want to do something, okay, it's going to happen. And this just happened almost spontaneously. Now, as a result of this, we took a cruise a couple of years ago, our last one, and we went to some of the Caribbean islands and sketched and painted the entire time, and it's always a blast. We average about 25 people. We just party, paint, have a good time for a week. And we'll do another one again sometime in the near future. But on the cruise, I started making preparations for the first time I was going to teach this lesson. Very primitive. I had just kind of discovered it. But I started doodling in my sketchbook. And I had some photographs that I had taken, and I started sketching one of the students that had gone on a cruise with us the first time. And then I had a Jamaican gentleman that I started, and I was amazed as I drew this stuff out, and I started visualizing it in my mind with nothing in front of me. And then I remembered something that really impressed me with my good friend John Lee and his wife Kay, who were on the cruise, and that he was with his golf pro in the middle of the main area of the ship, and doing his usual thing that he loves to do so well. And I was amazed how I could go back to my room and I could sit down and I could draw this from memory and capture the form and the animation, and the rest you're going to see is just very, very easy to do. So I thought I'd share this with you, because this again was somewhat what I might call my second breakthrough. Now you're going to have an opportunity to meet AR. Okay, and AR has been a tremendous help to me, because you know, when you come by and you see and you see and you see, for the first time in my life, I've struggled with this. I've tried to figure every kind of formula for understanding it and doing it, but it's nothing like having something visual in front of you, such as a skeleton if you're going to do the human body. And I would walk by this and walk by it and walk by it, and every day something got a little clearer, a little clearer, and a little clearer. The first concept I started with that I'm going to share with you, and I want you to remember, is called symmetry. Okay, and we always want to remember that if you are going to do a skeleton or a human being, you must first visualize them head on like this. Okay, and you must come in and draw a center line and understand that the body was designed to be basically symmetrical, meaning it's even both sides, and if you can visualize it all the way around, meaning all of this is distributed equally all around a center line. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a concept that I've never read before, I've never heard of before, and it's a concept that I feel is very important from the standpoint that we are all accustomed to visualizing something and attempting to draw something from the outside contour, okay, the outward form of the body. The only problem with that, it's like trying to draw anything like that, okay? There's no way to measure really accurately exactly whether what you're doing is correct or not. When you draw a center line and extend all the information around the center line, for the first time, you begin with the center line and now this concept of the center line is rather revolutionary. It'll be one of the foundational aspects of what we're going to be doing, and we'll get more into this a little bit later. But the first thing we want to recognize is we're not going to be drawing these people from the concept of drawing the outside contour as we normally do. We're going to begin with the center line, and we're going to measure every part roughly. And this assists us greatly in getting the form and the animation correctly. Let's go to the next part of this. And in this lesson, I'd like you to notice an aspect of drawing the human figure, drawing the human body, the skeleton, that absolutely astounded me in the process of attempting to show you what happens with the human body when you rotate it. Because all I did is I took this person, or this skeleton, that we'll look at this a moment and we see all the measurements, okay, go across like this in lines, and they're all even and they're all perfect. The minute we rotate the human figure or skeleton or whatever, immediately we establish a horizon line, which you see here. Still have a center line. But I want you to notice how the same skeleton all of a sudden begins to have an extreme perspective. And it's hard to comprehend that from here to here, we could have that much perspective going to a vanishing point. It does happen. So in addition to the center line, we're going to remember that if the human body is not, or the human skeleton is not head on, the minute you rotate it, you're going to have to establish a horizon line, and then you're going to have a vanishing point, and that will relate greatly to being able to understand to draw a person. Now, the next thing we want to look at is what happens when we take a person like this and we tilt him forward. Okay? I want you to notice the difference in what the skeleton begins to look like in this figure as opposed to what it looks like head on. Okay? Because what happens is all of a sudden this is rotated. The middle part of the rib cage is now rotated. The cutaway in the front of where the ribs actually go up, you can feel it in your own ribs, that's now rotated. It's now rotated upon a line that we're going to call a contour line. Okay, so we have rotation, we still have our center line, we have tilt, and we also are going to introduce a gravity line. Okay? Now, the gravity line is the line that once you get out of symmetry, meaning you're not standing completely symmetrical in relationship to Earth's gravity, okay, there has to have a gravity line that replaces the center line that equally proportions your body around that gravity line, so that as we make our different motions and actions and reactions, or cause and effect motions in our animation, we'll call it, we don't fall over. Okay, and the reason I can call this a gravity line here is I put something under this figure, and I basically, because of this object underneath the stand, if you can see it down here, okay, I created a balance right here between this and this, that the body is right about to fall over, but with the addition of this extra support, okay, and the gravity line, the weight is distributed in such a way that he doesn't fall over. This will become a very important part of our lesson. And I've particularly included these in this particular thing to help you to understand this more clearly and to study it in the future. Now, I actually did a close-up shot of the same view. And the reason for this close-up shot is so that you can see that I have rotated this from a front view. I've tilted it forward, okay, and this is what we call complex rotation and tilt, if you want to make a note. And I want you to notice this is the rib cage, just like I drew it in the thimble. This is actually the center line. I don't know the medical term, but that's the center line. And then we see the rib cage under here, but then all of the other parts of the arm and the shoulders in this part that are not directly related to the rib cage, but they are. But the point is, I could take something over this right now, and I could draw this, and I could draw this, and I could draw this, and it would give me the exact rotation and tilt that I wanted to very easily. So this close-up was done to enable you to be able to do this very quickly. And then lastly, I took a close-up of the head, because I want to show you a close-up so that you can understand that the head likewise is a form, and it's affected by gestures, by rotation, by tilt, by angles, okay? And so consequently, from this illustration, I have wound up making something where I take something like this and I draw a rectangular shape, I bring it back, and I actually draw a box, divide the box, and I'll show you very quickly how we can do the human face. Now, in addition to that, as time permits, we're going to do the feet and we're going to do the hands. Okay. Now, this brings us to our next lesson, and this is the lesson that is going to be very important, because I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to show you how to sketch this, but along with it, we're going to take time and you're going to draw each one of these items, okay? And we're going to pause between each one. I'm going to show you them all the way through for the rib cage. I'm likewise going to show you the same thing for the hips. And then you're going to draw these items. And you're going to draw each one individually. You may not get it perfect, but you're going to understand it when you leave here today, so that you're able to go another step further with it. Okay, having said that, I'm going to move this over now and get a sheet of paper, and we're going to do this. Now we'll refer back to this in a moment. Let's get our plain paper here, and I'm going to put this pencil here because this camera is very funny about not having here with this anything on this paper with this automatic focus. it'll start doing real crazy things. Now, I want you to have your sheet in front of you as we do this. The first thing I want to cover with you is going to be the front view. And that's what we're talking about right here. Okay? Now, look at the sheet, your sheet, as I do this. First thing, everyone has a concept that they can't draw a straight line and believes they can't draw a straight line. Okay, well, that's wrong. Now, of course, you don't need to know how to perfectly draw a straight line, but I'm going to show you how you can use a couple of things that will really help you conquer this thing that everyone seems to fear. Now, the biggest problem with most people, if you're going to draw a line from here to here, most people just go like this, okay? They just do it from the hand and the wrist. It's very tense. Try it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, look at the difference if we just barely hold the pencil in our hand like this, okay? And notice how I'm actually drawing it from my shoulder. No pressure. I could let the pencil fall if I want to. No pressure. I'm looking at this side of the paper right here. Okay? And notice how you can come down and you start lightly. That's the key to it. This is our center line that I mentioned to you. Okay? And on the center line, one of the things that denotes a center line is you generally have a long, short, long, short, long, short line like that. Okay, now, what's critical about this center line, we're going to draw basically a triangular shape. We're going to take this like this, okay, and we're going to draw a straight line across here. Now, I'm going to determine, I want it to be this wide here, and I'm going to come to the middle, and I want it to be this wide here. Now, if you have trouble figuring something like that out, and some people do, okay, I think we can see this on the sheet all right, then take a sheet of paper, come in and do this, and then come over here and do this. This is a mathematical procedure. If you can balance a checkbook, you can do this. Ooh, that was the wrong thing to say. Okay. Now, let's come across again. Now notice as I draw the line this way, I'm continually looking at the sides, the top. It's seeing, okay? It's not some inherited skill. Now notice I'll put another dot here and another dot here. I'm going to connect this. Now notice I'm looking at dot to dot, okay? And then I'm going to come down like this the same way. I'm continually working towards that dot. Now this is a little hard to see. Perhaps we could get this in just a little bit closer. Let's do this, and then I'll drop it down for you a little bit where you can see it, okay? Now, all we have to do after this is put the cutout. Now, this is not accurate, you know, anatomically, but we're not worried about that. We're doing form and gesture. Okay, so now we have our first shape drawn correctly. What I would like you to do is I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let you do this. Remember, center line, measure this, connect it, and then cut out your image. Let's do it. Okay, we're going to take our second shape now. What makes this nice is you can take this and draw a light line across here, draw a light line across here, and now we already have our height established. Oh boy, how easy this is. Now let's do another center line. Now notice I'm going to follow exactly the same procedure. Approximate this, bring it across and hit it here. Approximate this, bring it across, whoop. Wrong page, Josephine. Now you think that was a mistake, but I was actually seeing if you're awake. Good, I'm glad you caught it. Let's reverse this now. We'll get to that other shape in a moment. Now, we want to take the same view, but we're going to look at what we're going to do. We're going to tilt it. Now, how do we start? We tilt our center line, okay? But now what I've done is I've drawn this, and I've drawn this, and I've established where our center line is going to be. So we're just going to take this now, and we're going to start at where the center of this is. We're going to bring it down like this. Okay. Now, this point and this point, always notice I'm going to be mentioning points, become our pivotal areas. Now, notice how I'm making this diagonally to this. I'm going to draw the same thing again here. Okay. Now that's why these lines were important. And we're going to have this, and we're going to have this approximately the same. Now, let's connect this, and let's do the same thing again. Now notice, all I've really done is taken this object, and what have I done? I've tilted it. Now this is tilted a little further. So we're going to come back, straighten that out. I want you to see this tilt. I want you to follow a little diagram, and I want you to do this. And we'll stop and let you do it. Okay, we'll try to remember where we're at here. We'll pick up our next shape, look at our reference sheet. Now, we're going to take this shape, we tilted it here, and we're going to rotate it. Now, what do we mean when we're going to rotate it? We're going to start with the same center line. We're going to guess at where this is. Whatever we do is going to be close enough. Put the measurement here, put the measurement here, a little further out here, a little further out here. Okay, now what we're actually going to do now, and this is very critical, we're going to take our line, which is our center line going down the middle, and I'm going to introduce you to a concept, and I call it the contour line. C-I-N-T-O-U-R. Okay? And it's going to follow the contour of the body, the roundness of the body. Okay? And I'm going to just draw this in with a red pen to really illustrate it for you. I'm actually going to take this object now. Let's take our white cup, and I'm going to rotate it like this. That's all I'm doing. Like this to like this. Now what happens? The contour line moves. What happens to the center line? It really stays the same. It's a little crooked in here. We can straighten it out like that. Okay. Center line remains the same. Contour line changes. So we're going to come down like this. And we're going to draw a dotted line to approximately where we want it to be. All that happens here is this comes up, around here, back down again, and establishes that we have done what? We have rotated the shape. Nothing else changes. Now, what I want you to notice is what, with the use of the center line and being able to measure the height, being able to measure the width, okay, we find that the shape really does remain measurable, it remains consistent, it remains visual, and it's easy to figure out. Now, lastly, this is the first real radical change we're going to have, because we're not only going to rotate it, we're also going to tilt it forward. And that's what we're doing here, okay? So we're going to do the same thing again here. But before we do that, let's stop and let you draw this one. Okay. We're going to pick this up again now. As I started to a moment ago, we're going to come across like this. We're going to come across like this. Okay, but this time I've decided to rotate it this way. Now look, I can drop this point down like this. It doesn't really matter, you know, where we put this. But I want to rotate it this much. Okay? So we're going to come down like this. Now what do? We do the same thing. We do this diagonally. Notice these points are intersecting. We do this diagonally, like this and like this. Okay. Now, what happens is, because what have we've done now? We've tilted the same object we had up here in reverse to what we have at the top. But now we're going to tilt this one forward. Now watch what happens. Instead of just rotation, when we tilt it forward, we now see the top of it. Now watch how easy this is. Okay? Now this is what you have to see in your mind. It's not really that complicated. So we now have what we call an ellipse. Now I'll take this ellipse up in a moment. But let's do this, and it does the same thing down here. Okay, and so what we're doing is we're seeing that cup. Let's forget all that. We're seeing that cup like this. Okay, and that's how easy it is to move this stuff around. Okay, now, once we have that established, remember, we've done the same thing. We've rotated and tilted it. Let's take our dotted line or our contour line, come up like this, bring this around like this, but then we find that this now comes around to contact here. So we see all of a sudden this shape in there, and now we see the shape. If we put the form in, we begin to see the contour of it three-dimensionally. Now I'd like you to take the time and do this object for me. Okay, the last thing we want to look at, let's bring our camera back up a little bit. We want to look at our thimble or whatever object you happen to be using, as long as it's cylindrical and it's basically the width of the base of where your rib cage is. Now what I want you to notice is we see the same thing. We see center line, we see front view, tilt, rotation, and tilt. Okay, now let's take each of these objects, and before we do, let's just sidetrack a little bit and actually understand what an ellipse is. Okay, and this may help you greatly. And this is going to be a roughly drawn sheet, but I think I'll just go ahead and reproduce this and put it in the pack. Okay, let's say we start like this. Now, everyone says about how much trouble they have drawing a circle. We're going to do this, measure, notice if you put equal dimensions from the center line, okay, and just start looking at as pieces in a pie. When you get finished, if you want to check yourself, take a piece of tracing paper, put it over your work, okay, and realize all of these sections are equal. You should be able to flip this over, put it on there, and be able to see it. Now, what happens with an ellipse? Okay, we're going to come down like this. And let's say we have an object that we're looking at that's like this. Okay, let's find another one that might be a little bit more representative. Okay. I could have drawn my circle perfectly with this. Okay, that's a roll, what's left of a roll of masking tape. Now we notice that's uncanny. Okay, we notice it's uncanny that I drew it that closely, but that's what you do when you don't think about it. Now, notice we have a center point, line this way, a line this way, and each one is measured, and I just lucked out on that one. I really did. Now, what I want you to notice is what's going to happen to produce an ellipse. We're going to take this object, and the minute I begin to come up with it and rotate it, let's just do it like this. I want you to notice what happens. The distance from here to here doesn't change, but the distance from here and here gets smaller. And an ellipse goes around in degrees until it finally becomes a straight line. Okay, so I'm actually taking a circle like this, and I'm rotating it until it's a line. And it's done in increments, you see? So what that enables me to do is to come down like this, down like this, down like this. Okay? And then I can come across. I'm still equal on both sides. This doesn't change. This will change depending on how much I rotate it. And we're going to stop right now, and I'm going to make a copy of this sheet for you. It's going to be rude and crude, but you're going to draw an ellipse. And you're going to understand what happens here. We're going to come down a little further. We're going to draw another center line. This time we're going to do this. And that means that this ellipse is getting narrower and narrower, and it's getting very close to becoming a straight line. Okay? And that's simply because we did this. So this is this ellipse. Actually, it's probably the one, and then this is, come up like this. This is this ellipse. And then it's over. And I hope that will be some kind of help to you in being able to do this. Now, having said that, let's do our hips. Again, I'm looking at the top of my page. Do like this. Put a center line, basically, telling me where I want the middle to be. I'll come out here and here. Okay, and then I'm going to say, okay, I want this to be like this. Okay, meaning I can draw a line across here. I can do this end over here. Okay. Now the beauty of this, if this is a little shorter than this side like it is, I'll move this over. You know how I believe about this kind of stuff. I can do axonometric, diametric, trimetric, perspective. My favorite is phacometric. Okay, now we drop down here. We're going to make this like this. We're going to make it the same distance here. And look at how easy it is to do that object symmetrically. Now, let's stop and you do that in your sketchbook. Okay, now that we understand that, let's take another center line. And what happens when we tilt this object? Well, let's bring this point down here. Now these are rough measurements, okay? It may not, when you tilt it, it may actually get a little shorter. I don't really know whether it will or not. I haven't really stopped and think about it. But notice we have equal increments. That's what we're interested in, okay? So we're going to just do the same thing again. We're going to make a diagonal line. Roughly do it like the top. Bring this across like this. Okay, we're going to have a line here and a line here. Okay, and then you're going to draw this. You're going to draw this symmetrical coming out from that center line. All right, let's take a moment and do that and just show you how easy it is. Okay, now we're going to go to our last shape, where we're going to have our, what we call, complex rotation and tilt. That's where I'm going to tilt it, but I'm also going to rotate it. Now what are we talking about? We're talking about this shape. We tilted it like this. Now we're going to tilt it, but we're going to rotate it. Now you notice the importance of that center line, because everything is built up around that center line. So we're going to come back over here, bring our center line down again. We're going to bring this line down. We're going to bring this line down. We're going to draw the same line like this, roughly. Okay, now what's going to happen, I'm going to draw this line, I'm going to draw this line. Okay, now that's the same as what we're talking about right here. The only difference is we're going to draw an ellipse. Now remember, you can do whatever you want here as long as you do the same thing over here. So that's our first shape. Come back like this. I'm going to draw a second shape. Then we're going to draw a little opening in the front. Okay, now we come back here and we want to draw, we're really doing this again, except you see, you're going to see this, and way out here it's going to be a little bit larger. Remember that as it gets away from you, you don't have this dimension. It's going to be wider because it's getting to the right of your peripheral view, and you're going to see more of the front of it. So that's very critical, or it will look very funny. So we're going to do this ellipse. I'm going to come back like, and actually we did that one. That was the one that I wanted to do. Okay, and then we're going to bring it around, and we're going to bring it in like this. And we're going to have another one that's going to come around like this, roughly the same way. And we don't have to carry that one around, because once we establish that one, we'll erase it. And then we're going to bring our lines back like this. We'll bring our lines back like this, just like we did up here. And then we're going to show this part in here. And it's kind of rude and crude, but that's the way you establish an ellipse like that. Now let's try that. Now as we go to the next part of our session here, I'd like to explain our next step. This is a character that I took a picture of in the French Quarter, actually around St. Charles Avenue. Not a character. When I say that, as far as a character, it's just an unusual pose, unusual form, unusual gesture, and something I find very intriguing. This is an elderly gentleman that was out taking his walk and heard something evidently that caught his attention, and when he turned around, I happened to catch him in a gesture with a form that I felt very, very unusual and exciting and interesting. And I wanted to do something eventually. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, to preserve this thought forever. Now, when you say preserve something forever, you're really hitting on a pretty high note there. And if you want a definition for what art is, for what you're doing, for an explanation of this compulsion that you have that you can't get away from it. You always go back to it. You always want to be around people that understand it. What we really do when we create a painting, whether we understand it philosophically or in reality or not, there's a moment in time that we captured, that we remembered. Remember, we're bombarded with probably literally millions of bits of information every day. And except for those of us who see what I'm talking about right now, it's all just jumbled up, it's just thrown out, it just goes on, and it's like you go through life really without fully understanding what's even going on around you. Those of us who are creative, those of us who have this passion that we can't understand, and by the way, someone told me, I read an article, that Freud said you can't be cured of this. So I wanted to just inform you of this conclusion that he had made. Now, I talked it over with my friend Floyd. He said you could be, but I don't know. Regardless, we all understand this compulsion and this compassion. And so what we want to do now is we want to take this moment in time that I captured, and I'm going to draw this person for you, and we're going to do him together. And then after this, we're going to paint him together. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's start, first of all, by doing a little bit more, or giving you a little bit more information to understand what we're going to do in the composition. What I intend to do is to take this scene and I'm going to turn it around. And I'm going to make it going this way, following that fence, and I'm going to show this figure with the, like I was looking at it from over here rather than here. And remember what art is. This is reality. This is where I took what I took with the painting. And it's so hard for people to understand this. The minute I leave this, put it on this piece of paper, it's mine. And reality is no longer this photograph, but it's what I put on this piece of paper. And that's the hardest thing for people to comprehend, because we fear this. Why? Because we have never been allowed to think that we have the power and the authority to do this. And if you want an explanation of what creativity is breaking this barrier. Okay, it's going through and no longer looking at information that we collect and being subject to the information. All of a sudden, the information will become like props in a stage production, and we move the props around. I'll never forget an example of this. When I was very young, I just got married. I was about 20 years old, 21 years old, something like that. And I got a call. I think I graduated from art school, and there was a gentleman that did these stage productions, the painting of them, and he thought he had a job lined up, and he wanted me to do this rendering for him. Well, I didn't know any better. I was just so glad to do something that somebody would pay me for, that I would do anything. So I went down, I talked to him, I still have it. I can get it out and show you all sometime. So I did this rendering of a stage production. I spent a lot of time into it, I should say, and I thought maybe for the first time we could do something better than red beans and rice, because I was going to make a little extra money with this art. And we'll come to find out, he wanted to put me under contract that if he sold it, he'd give me a piece of the action. And that wasn't going to fly. I never did like that kind of arrangement. So I never did sell it, but I learned when I went to Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans, I saw how they could take a relatively short distance on a stage, and they could move props around and make you think it was a block long, just by the way the perspective was painted, the backdrops were painted, and they would create sections as it went back. And I never forgot that. This was 50 years ago. 45 years ago, whatever, and I still remember it. And so what we're doing here is I found one scene on St. Charles Avenue, another scene close to Esplanade Avenue in the French Quarter, and we're going to put them together, and it's ours, and we don't have to be afraid to do it, and we don't have to apologize to do it. And you won't create until you're liberated from this. So, having said this, let's look at our figure. Now, I'm going to kind of ad-lib on this as I go along, and let's see if I have enough room to possibly, I have an idea in mind on the composition. I'm really doing this more as an interest factor. I have to watch what I do with this because I need to print copies for all of you of this character. Okay, we're going to start about right here. Now I'm going to ad-lib this quickly as we go along. What we're going to do now is take these two pieces and we're going to actually do a real figure for you. And you know what? We're going to do it together. And this is good news and it's bad news because guess what? We're not doing puppy stuff anymore. You're getting ready to run with the big dogs. Okay? And we're going to have a lot of fun with it. Okay. As I look at this figure, okay, I can't animate it for you on the television at this point because it's not, I don't have the kind of production that I can do that. But what I do when I get ready to do a figure like this, I stand up and I look at it and I animate the entire thing, okay, which I've already done. Now the first thing I want to determine, you know, because this is quite a study in form, or I should say in gesture. First thing I want to do is I'd like to give my conclusions on what I think is happening. Now, is this object or this person symmetrical? Of course he's not. Okay? So what happens once we leave symmetry? Okay, once we leave a symmetrical object, the center line has to be replaced with a gravity line. Now, I've concluded that, now this is a little bit different. It doesn't fit any of the rules of perspective or anything. So we're going to take this fellow, we're going to look at, first of all, what I see is the weight is here. Okay? So this is the gravity line. The center line comes off like this. But the majority of the weight, now you know what creates this? Look at this straight line right here. Okay? This part of the body is balanced by the majority of the body on this side, and though it looks like the center line could possibly be here, I'm going to go with what I think is the center line or the gravity line right here. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I'm going to come over here, and I've just got a big piece of watercolor paper. I'm not going to worry about what size I draw it or whatever. I want to just bring it over like this because I'm going to draw it and then I'm actually going to create a composition around it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw this line right here. That's our gravity line. Don't laugh. You're going to be doing this in a minute. Now, what did I mention to you a minute ago? Look at our masking tape. Look at our edge of that paper. Come down like this. Notice, very lightly, I'm going to bring this line down like this. Okay. Now, let's say if I wanted to just really get down to, and you can do this, there's nothing wrong with it, okay? This is the bottom of the body roughly. This is the top of the head. Okay? This is what we're going to do here. Now let me take a moment and do something that might even be a little bit better for you. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I was using a 7mm lead, which is a little bit thicker than a 5mm, which I'm a little bit more accustomed to using. I didn't like the way that line was coming out, so I switched back to that. Now, you're going to have this in front of you in color and in black and white, so this will be what we're going to be using. Now, you can't really see this too clearly on the screen, but you'll see it on the sheet that I reproduced for you. We have a red line down this leg that says that this is the gravity line, Let's just call it what it is. Okay, that's our gravity line. Now, what happens is we still have a center line, basically, that's going to go down the middle of the body here. So we're going to come with another line, and we're going to come up like this. Okay, that's going to be our center line. Okay, now whenever you see CL, guess what it means? Center line. All right, so let's try redrawing that freehand again, lightly. And this time, I'll do it with a thinner lead, and that's a little bit more what I'm accustomed to doing. Okay, now we have the basic outline in there like we want it. Okay, now remember, and I'm not trying to copy this literally because I don't really have to. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is, this is the top of the head. I'm estimating the top of the neck is about right here. Okay, so we're going to come like this, and I'm approximating, looking at this, looking at this, and looking at this. I can see the distance is about here. This line should come to about right here. So you can mathematically figure this out. You can do it even if it wasn't on paper. So I'm going to come up like this. Now, first thing I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Okay? Now, I'm going to come down. It's going to go quite a bit over on this side here. I'm going to come over a certain distance this way. I'm going to guesstimate at where I think that should be. Now notice exactly what I did here. That's our first step. And you're going to draw this in a minute. Okay? It's called rotation and tilt. Now, the rotation is such that it's almost like in the picture we looked at of the skeleton. This is probably the contour line coming down like this. And the rib cage probably does like this. Okay, so we're going to take this contour line now, and we're going to come down like this, and we're going to do the same thing. And look at how easy it is to interpret that and do it. Okay, now what happens on this that we have to understand is that I was quite a distance away, and I'm thinking right now that the horizon line was probably about right here. Okay, I'm assuming, probably, no, I take that back now. Let's look at this. Of course, this is tilted over a little bit. I'd say somewhere in here is where we have our horizon line. Okay, so consequently, I want to put him a little bit like this. Remember what I told you about? We're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Now, I jumped the gun on you, and I drew this in before I did the rotation and the tilt. So I did the rotation. Now I've done the tilt. Okay, and I'm going to drop this down. And this is anatomically probably a little bit more correct. Okay, now remember then this line's going to come back around here. Remember those ellipses, okay? And we're going to see that like that. Okay. I'm going to leave a little bit of this information in here. Okay, now the hips, it's got pretty broad hips. Okay, so as we look at this sheet, we can see that what's really strange is it's like the weight is here, but I think it's because of the way this foot goes back. I think this actually is going to be almost on a straight line, maybe even going up this way a little bit, very slightly. So we're just going to come down below here, we're going to draw the hips. Okay, now just like we saw this in this perspective, we're going to come back like this, we're going to do this, bring this across like this, do it like this, Okay, and that's going to give us our two basic proportions. So let's just take this here and put it up a little bit closer for you. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to make a copy of just these two right now. Okay, having copied step one for you, let's look at the next thing that happens, and I want us to see the full figure. Let's go back up a little bit here. Okay, now I've already established that the bottom of the figure, let's see how this is lining up so far. I might have dropped those hips down a little bit, may have made the top a little bit larger. Now, you know what I love about this? I don't care. I'm going to come in and do what I think looks right, see? So I'm going to start. Now what happens, the next thing we want to remember, and I have a sheet in your information that you're going to really enjoy, okay? And when you get away from the lesson today, I show how the top part of the leg is convex, meaning it goes out, comes back. The bottom part is concave. Okay, so what we're going to do, convex, let's come from the end here. We're going to come approximately, see, I'm not even really worried about what the picture does. I'm going to do this. I'll come over like this. I'm going to come back. And then I'm going to bring this down like this. And he's very contorted here. And I'm going to actually put the feet like this. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other side here, and I'm going to come almost straight down, convex again, okay, and bring it back a little bit. See, I'm almost seeing him head on here. In fact, it's really distorted to the point that it almost looks like his leg goes the other way, but we're going to do it this way. I'm going to bring it like this, because I think it looks a little bit more reasonable. We've got a little bit of perspective going this way now. You see, so we're going to come back and we're going to do this part of it. We're going to draw that one. Pretty wide hips. Now, the last thing I want to do is to come in with the arms. Now, because of the way he's tilted over, I've really surpassed I've drawn him much bigger. See, I don't care. I really don't, because if I would have had to fit him into a certain section, I would have. But we've got him like this. Now, I want to come in, and I want to, this will be on the sheet later on that you're going to be looking at. I've got an angle on his shoulder that's like this. Okay, and hopefully I think this will print on the color copier. Okay, so we're going to do an angle like this. Okay, and then perhaps this should have had a little bit more foreshortening than I have. So I'm going to eliminate that. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to start and maybe drop this down a little bit here. Okay, because what we want to capture now, we want to get the arm part going right, because in reality, see, this is going this way, but I think the rest of his body is going this way. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we got his arm coming out here. It follows the pattern of his body. It's going to come out about right here, and it's going to go back around the back side here. Okay, and then over here we have nothing at all. It's going to just come back and run into his leg. Okay, now, having gotten all of this to this point, I'm going to round this around to here. Okay, now, we want to capture the head. Now, we're not going to really see, this is going to be a little bit unusual. Okay, here's the top of it. Let's get the front of his face here. Now this is going to shock you when I do it, because what we're actually doing, we're putting his face coming out here. We're going to put our little box like this and like this, roughly. Now we're going to come back across the back of him. okay? And we're actually seeing him from the back. There really isn't going to be anything, so we're just going to put that box on there like that, and then I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to start with this, go up the back of the head, and then I'll pick up the front of the, and then see, we want to pick up that ear because that's very crucial, approximately right here. Okay, and then we have the hair coming down. This comes like this, and then the cap will come like this. Come out like this. Now, the shirt goes way up here. See, and all of these things are kind of interesting and different. And then this is going to come back out like this behind it. And maybe, and probably will come out a little further when we finish it. Now, this might need a little bit more explanation for you, okay? So let's just take our sheet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this, and then I'll make a different explanation on it for you. Now, in reality, I think the sheet brings it out a little bit more clearly. So let's figure what's actually happening on that head is, instead of having a view with a person that might be like this, and we draw the center line and divide the head like this to start putting the other features in, what we really have is that this is the front of the face. And we have rotated this, okay, to where we're only seeing the back of the head. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this, and we're going to show the face somewhat long ways. It's going to be going down like this, show a little bit across the back of it. We get a little bit more proportionate here, okay, and then actually we're going to come back like this, pick up the ear, okay, and then we're going to come in and pick up the, actually there's not going to be any facial features. We're going to come in like this, bring it around like this, and then that hat's going to come around here, right across the top of the ear. This part of the hat comes out like this, comes up straight around the back, and it's just going to come straight back down here, and this is where we're going to pick up the shirt, and we're just really showing the back of his head right here, and a little bit of the side of his face coming down right here, and his ear. Now I hope that makes some sense to you, because see, what this does is it puts you in the ballpark. Okay, let's stop and maybe let you draw this part of it now, and I'll have this for you as far as the copy is concerned. Now I want you to notice, so you would normally be doing this on another sheet of paper and transferring it to your watercolor paper. And that's essentially what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and sketch it on here because I like the fun of the freedom of doing it, okay? But let's come back, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tracing paper on this, which you're going to get in a minute and be able to do also. Okay, so we're going to do this, and I'll make this especially for what you're going to be doing. Let's start first of all with the head. We'll come like this, like I have it, come up around like this, bring it down here and around here, and then here, and kind of have it circling around like this. You wonder why I put that in there. It gives you that little added dimension. And we have an ear. Okay. Now we actually have the face at a little bit more of an angle here, showing a little bit more of the side of it than I do. We have the hair coming up like this on the side of the face. Then we're going to come in like this and in, like this, down, around like this, and then down. Now we'll come across the back like this. We're going to pick this up, and then of course you're going to have the hand, so we're going to just go ahead and outline the hair back behind him like this. Okay, now got a shirt collar coming down. I'm just going to start actually doing it like this. Now this is going to come like this, and around here like this. And it begins to come at a pretty severe angle. And see, this is all a guideline. And I'm going to come around like this. Bring that stomach around like this. Now we got a shirt here, collar comes here, that comes up like that. I can't really see clearly what happens on the other side, don't really care. Now when I come back down here, this is the center line for the arm. So what I want to do is I want to have that come out a little bit more. I have that come back. See, this tells me where this goes, it tells me where the shoulder goes, it tells me where to break it and bring it back around here. Now I'm going to swing this around like this, okay? And then let's remember that we're going to start picking up the contour of the back side here. Okay, and I think I'm pretty much where I want to be with this, and I'm going to come down like this. Okay, and then see the nice thing about having it, I know right where that curve begins. And I'm going to bring it down like this. Bring it down, let it go around the shoes. Okay. Now we're going to come all the way back up here, and I know this is what this does. This comes like this, and then around that kneecap, comes straight down like this, comes in, and then I begin to pick up the excesses on his slacks. And maybe we might even have a little center line that comes like this. Okay, now what this shows me right here is that this is approximately where that sweater, pretty long sweater, drops around his buttocks. This comes around like this. Okay, and then we have almost a straight line coming all the way like this, any way we want to make it. Now he may not be coming out exactly the same proportions, that's the center line of his pants. Who cares? Okay, we barely see his shoulder over here, but now this begins to come down almost completely straight. And we'll bring this over here like this. Let's share some of this with you, share the wealth here. Now I may have him a little heavier than I expected, maybe he won't be. But it doesn't matter, see? I'm not really drawing a person, I'm putting a person in a painting. I like the gesture. Come around like this. Like this. Okay, and that's really all we're going to have in this. It's going to be so easy to shade him. Now this belly could come in maybe a little bit more like this. I'll thin him down a little bit. Okay, pants come up like I've got them here. That's fine. Now notice when I come across here, I've got a little slight angle where this comes in. This is where my pants are going to come out on this side. Now let's just, this is really weird the way this does. Now see, this comes all the way around like this, and then shows it coming down like that. Very, very interesting. Okay, then actually we don't pick up any of this here. This is going to start about right here, and it's going to curve a little bit around the back of that leg, start coming down, pick up the same thing here, and then I'm just going to estimate that this is going to come down like this. Okay, now again, remember when I put the shading and all in it, this is going to make a lot of difference. But as far as I'm concerned, now this right here I might have brought in a little bit more, had this a little bit thinner. Okay, now I'm not afraid to admit that I may not get it perfect the first time. Some people are. But it's not a problem. Okay, now when we come down to this last part right here, the shoes just kind of fit under here like this. And this fits under here about like this. Now, I can't really see any This is not really nearly as exciting as it's going to be. Now, I can already look at him and tell I made him possibly a little bit heavier. But again, who's counting? Okay? Let's take a sheet of white paper, slide it under here like this, and I think we have what we can draw for our figure, and you're going to get the tracing paper and get a chance to do it yourself in a minute. Okay? Now, see, when I put this on here like this, I'll begin to see that with him stooped over like that, I might have the opportunity to possibly bring this down just a little bit further. See, and that'll slim him down a little bit, and I can bring this in a little. But this part really, no matter what you do to it, this part here goes pretty wide. And then comes back up this way like this. Let's put a little bit more of that in there. Now, see, I don't really worry, because again, a lot of this is going to be in shadow. And I wish I had the time to go ahead and do the gesture part of it, or rather the form part of it, but we're going to do that in the painting. Now, this is a mistake here. That should have followed the roundness of that neck and come around like this. This, I don't mind telling you, has been one of the most interesting ones I've ever done in this whole journey. Now, this needs to curve a little bit more like that. But I tell you, I liked it. I liked it for the workshop. It's going to be something that's going to stretch you a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and do it. Okay, now I'm going to take this off now, reproduce it on the copier, and then you're going to be all set to do your tracing when you put it on there like that, okay? We just pause for now. Now what I've actually done, I've got a drawing like this made for you, and I've gone ahead and completed my drawing on the paper. I've added the rest of the background in, made up a composition. I didn't want to take the time to do all that on the video. You'll see it when we paint it. And then I'm actually going to go through this step by step, and I'm going to paint it with you very quickly. Now I know this is a lot to try to do at one time, but I'm going to be floating around the room helping you. And let's go ahead and proceed to finish the background and this type of thing. We can transfer it if you'd like, and then we'll go to the actual painting. Okay, I had planned originally to do some of the painting in class. However, I had some time to at least get the painting started, and that'll expedite things a little bit more quickly later on. Now what I'd like to point out here is the fact that here's the photograph again of our gentleman, and we're going to start our watercolor, and we'll get to that in just a second. Before we do, let's again refresh your memory on the colors and so forth, and the brushes. Now we use the 4 basic brushes I use in my program. We use others, but I have a number 2 round, number 4 round, number 8 round, and also a 1/2 inch flat. We're using our 5 standard colors, which are the cadmium red, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, and hooker's green, and the M-gram watercolors when it's possible. Now we also might use a little bit of alizarin crimson in those pants. We'll see. But the first thing I want to make you aware of is the fact that this is a painting that is going to rely very heavily on chiaroscuro. Now, in the case of this particular painting, remember we're going to use this front of this building. And if you'll notice, when you start looking at this mortar on these old buildings like this, you'll see some of it's rather light here, some of it is a little bit darker, and some of it has some brick coming through it, and different colors, soft pastel-y looking colors. And so we really are pretty much unlimited in terms of what we can do with this. Now, what I'd like to be able to do is to at least put in a background color. What's going to make this a little bit different is the fact that the chiaroscuro is going to have, I want to have enough light against, tone I should say, against the gentleman, so that we can light up this side of the body. And then I want to purposely not have it too darkly over here, because I'd like to be able to come in and make this side of the body a lot darker. So this is what we're projecting and what we're going to do. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and begin our watercolor. Now, I'll bring the palette over. Sometimes people like to know just exactly what you're doing when you're mixing color. And thought I had a paint rag. Let me go get one. Okay. Now, I noticed this particular mortar here on the front of this building. We'll hold it up a little bit closer. It compared to this one, which is a grayish looking color, it almost looks like it has a little yellow and a little green. Now this doesn't really matter for our base coat, but I'm going to take my standard ultramarine blue, and I'm going to take my burnt sienna, and this is going to give me a grayish color right here. Okay, and we can see that coming through. It has a blue-gray effect to it. I want a little bit more brown, though. We have direct sunlight hitting this very brightly. And then we're going to come back with a little bit of the yellow. And that yellow is going to warm it up very nicely. Now, let's get us a little scrap piece of paper here. It's always good to have that on the side of you there. And let's just see what this is going to look like. Now, it's not quite as green as I have it in the picture. So let's put a little bit more burnt sienna rather than the ultramarine blue. I'll lighten it enough just to give you an example of how profitable it is to do this. Look at how I can come here, put this up against here like that, and it's almost immediately recognizable as being correct. Okay, now the first thing I want to do, I like using as large a brush as possible. And I'm going to start here, and we're going to come down, and we're actually going to draw the face in. There. Come along here, and we're going to do the rest of the body. Now, mind you, I mentioned the fact that I wanted this side to be just a tiny bit darker. So we're going to come down like this. And I hope you can see on the paper that immediately the person begins to voila, really. Now we're going to come down like this. And like this. Now it's a little bit of variation in it. It's not going to hurt anything. Now let's just come on around the top of the hat like this. And we'll do that. And then we're going to come straight on up. And then we're going to come across the top. We're going to give a slight perspective up here now, as tall as this is. And then we're just going to come right along the side over here. And finish that off like that. Okay. Now, having done all of that, what we're going to do next, so we can get some nice straight lines, we're going to turn this around, and we're going to do this. And we're going to come back up like this. And I already love this color. I would have never thought, honestly, to use it. Still can't get over the posture of this gentleman. It almost looks like it's an impossible situation for him to be standing in. Now, as I get back here, my paint's getting a little diluted. And isn't that wonderful? Because that's right where I want the pigment to begin to be a little bit lighter. Now look at how nicely that's beginning to come into place here. And then we're going to come down like this. I'll tell you what. It's kind of rainy here in Baton Rouge. It's been raining for a couple of days now. It's Saturday morning, October the 11th. Big football game today. But I'll tell you, I don't know what the rest of the world's doing, but I don't think they're going to be having more fun than we're having right now. Okay. Now, you would think, well, you're surely not going to use that half-inch brush in here. You just watch me. I've just found that this is just the most wonderful brush to get started with. Now look at how automatically we begin seeing the contour of that figure. Okay, now, when we get down to the sidewalk, this was after the World's Fair, they actually came in and rearranged a lot of the quarter. And Some of it good, some of it bad, but one of the things they did is they replaced a lot of the cement sidewalks with reddish looking burnt sienna looking tile and stuff like this, which is okay. But I don't really want a lot of that in there. I really want this to be the Chiaroscuro. So what I'm going to do, just to contrast it and make it a little bit different, I'm going to come across like this. And I'm actually going to just bring it down, bring it right to the corner like this. Now see, I'm just hitting enough of it. I don't care if I leave a little bit of white sparkling through occasionally. Now, this is going to be extremely light, and I'm going to have some wonderful contrasting tones in it because of the fact that we're going to have now let's get a little blue, ultramarine blue and just burnt sienna to get a nice gray this time. We're going to have some dramatic purple shadows coming across. So we're going to do this and just get a kind of a grayish tone. I'm going to do this here. Maybe make that a little bit thicker. Otherwise known as the banquet. Okay, now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rectify something here. I made that perspective too severe. So we're going to do like this and simmer that down a little bit. Then we're just going to come across the bottom and fill this in, and later I'll show you how I'll correct that perspective without too much difficulty at all. Again, I'm just layering in some basic colors just to get a somewhat of a really basic idea of what this is going to look like. And finally, we want to use a lot of burnt sienna, tone it down a little bit with our blue. And these doors are just aged looking wood, really old cypress doors probably, so we're just going to come down like this. And just working in there very much like a sign painter would do, I might add. Now, there's a richer brown in this possibly that we can use, and we'll look at that later. Overshot the mark there, so we'll just come back and fix that. So why don't we take a minute and let me do this thing up correctly so that we don't have any mishaps that we don't need at this time, since I really am somewhat rushed in the sense that I'm trying to get some of this done before class. So we'll just try to avoid any mishaps like that. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter to me if this is a little bit on the it's a little bit on the uneven side at this point, because I am going to come back later and enhance it. But remember, we're doing a nice little scene here, and we're going to put a figure in it. So we're just blocking it in, getting the basic idea of what we want to do, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to let our figure be predominant. Okay, so we'll just come back while this is all wet. Put some more of this striking color down like this. That's something how when you screw up something like this down here, it just doesn't want to go away. So we'll take care of that again. Not looking for perfection right now. Okay, now you notice this is giving us just enough to block it in, get an overall feeling for the composition. Now the critical part, and I don't lose sight of this, is going to be the man. We're going to come back to him in just a second. Okay. Now let's come back over here and just put our basic tone, putting the first coat on this window now. And we'll come back across like this. Okay. Now I think that's going to be fine for what I would like to do right now, and I'd like to stop, dry this, and let's go directly to the figure. Now, I talked to you a little bit earlier about the error I made here, and we're going to we'll come back to this in a little bit. I'm not really concerned about it. Just going to clarify this a little bit more. And I think that'll help that out a little bit when we get ready to do it. Okay, let's stop for just a moment now and blow dry this. Okay, now as I look at the individual that we're going to be doing here, I'd like to point out the fact that I'm going to have to rearrange a couple of things. First of all, I have a dark shadow up against the figure here, which is fine. But I want to make sure I'm not showing a light area here, and I want the front of the gentleman to be a little bit more illuminated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in like this, and I'm going to make sure that we pick up a nice light area here. And we're going to come down, and I'm going to make sure that the side of this is left completely white. And then we pick up the shadow area coming around here, all the way down here. And then we'll pick up some areas coming down like this and make sure that that stays like we want it to stay. Okay, the whole front of the shirt we're going to leave light. We'll let this get a little darker over here. We'll have this part light again, and then the whole back of him will be gray. And then we're just going to leave the part of his face here relatively light. Now, you know, I really am debating about something, because, you know, the picture that I have really shows him silhouetted in darks, and just the shirt light, and just having a light movement more or less right across here. Evidently there's a bush or something. There was something there that blocked the light from him. And with all the lighter tones I'm using in the background, I may just change and just go with that. So then just leave a little light highlight around the front of him. So let's notice that even the hat, that's almost like the sun is somewhat behind him and over on this side of him right here, rather than in the front as I was going to make him. And I think up against that background, this may really be the route to go. So we'll be able to still use our Chiaroscuro, but this is basically what we're going to do. So we're going to start, and we're going to take a little, I'm going to take a number 4 brush now, because we're going to get down a little bit smaller. Let's mix a little ultramarine and blue and burnt sienna, and we'll get our basic flesh tone. We're going to use a little more blue because of the cool shadows, and we're just going to come down like this now, and actually I'm going to lighten this part in here just a slight amount to show the gray hair. Okay, and maybe we can drop that camera down a little bit. Hey, there we go. All right, now let's see if we can do about a 10-minute person here. All right, now while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to use a similar gray here. So I'm just going to come right down the back here. Start off with it just a little bit, just somewhat of a middle tone. There's the break on my shoulder. Bring it down like this. And actually, I'm going to catch most of this sweater is going to be in a grayish tone like this. It's not going to be catching any direct sunlight. And I'm going to follow through with that. So we're going to start and put a light tone over it like this. Okay, now the opposite side is a little bit different, but before I go to that, let's go to the hat at the top now. And we're going to really use some opaque pigment. Again, mix our ultramarine blue, our burnt sienna. If you want to use a little black, it's up to you. We're going to come back around like this, kind of go outside of the head a little bit. Now, this hat's going to start turning around the back of his skull right now. So I think it's dry enough to do this. I hope so. So we're going to bring it in like this. It's going to come up the front. And again, it's rather odd the way this has wound up being silhouetted. But nonetheless, we're going to follow through with it. Now, the strange thing about this, he's got a light red color on the front of his hat, and it's catching the sunlight pretty strongly. So we're going to come in like this, bring it back around like this, and pretty much leave that like it is. Okay, now I think this is dry enough to come in, and let's start putting a little bit more of the flesh tone. Get a little bit more of that burnt sienna color in there also. And we're just going to start this. I had curved a little bit coming around there. I see now it's really more like a straight line. So we're just going to bring this like this, kind of start tying all of this together, and actually just come back in and cover this whole area. Except when I get around to the front of it, I'm going to leave his face completely white. And then it kind of catches his neck going around here like this. Now, some of this drawing I'm doing with the paintbrush right now, and you're probably aware of that. Okay, now, what I've got to make sure that I get here is his chin is coming out. And I'll just kind of taper that light coming down the front of his face. Okay, let's get a little bit more of this. Now, we get a little bit more of the same color under the hat. Actually, we're just really going to see a little light here, and almost everything else is going to be dark. So we'll come back and have that strong dark under here. Now, I want to put that gray in here for the hair coming around, soften out a little bit more, and I may need to bring this out a little bit more. I'm going to leave just enough of it to show where that's coming from. Now, I could leave this, however, I noticed one thing that I think is pretty crucial here, and that is that the actual background came up against his neck, up under his neck right here. So I'm going to put some of that in, blend it out a little bit, and I'll show you how we'll come back later and rectify that situation. Okay, now, while I have all these good colors mixed up here, I'm going to come back in, tone this down a little bit. Okay, get some of these darks, nice darks back in the back. I'll let that's a little bit wet, so let's let that do its thing. Okay, now we're going to come back, and I'll get my half-inch brush here, and we'll just blend that out. And other than the pencil lines, which I think I may eliminate in the middle, you're not even going to be able to tell that. Okay. See if I can get those maroon pants with just the red, and I don't think I'm going to be able to, just the red and the burnt sienna and a little bit of blue. I like that color. Now I may not have it exactly, but we're going to just stick with our basic palette. First thing I want to do is I want to come down here and I want to get a really light area in, but along with it I'm going to really start picking up some of my highlights here. And really hit the chiaroscuro at this point. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Now this is going to somewhat be in shadow because of the sweater. But I like that white now, and I think I'm going to come back and I'm going to pick up a little bit more. I'll have this like this somewhat, but I'll come down here, pick this up a little bit more. Maybe every now and then showing a little break like that. And then let's just bring that right up against that edge of the pants and make that really stand out a little bit better. Okay, now you notice we're just generally blocking this in while I wait for other parts to dry. And then we're going to come down here. We'll just take some of our darkest color here and indicate where the shoes are going to be. So we'll come across like this. And put our basic shoe in here. And it just absolutely fascinates me. I never get over it when you start putting these little details like this in here. And we're going to come around like this. And notice I'm just getting the general gesture of the foot. I'm not even really trying to make that too perfect. Okay, now I may want to do a little bit more on those pants later. But for the time being, I'd like to come back, since all of this is still a little bit wet here, I'd like to come back and start maybe back up in the hair and the back of the skull. And let's start getting some of this in here a little bit darker. Now what I notice is that as this comes around the back, we're picking up a little reflected light. And so this is actually darker here and grays out coming around the back. And we're going to just basically lose this. Is what we're going to do. So we'll come on, kind of come on around like this. Okay, now I want to take some of the strong tones and hit this up under here and actually lose some of this completely. Now let's don't mess with that area there. And I got a little something I'm going to do there later, I'll show you, but for the most part I really do want this to be really dark and not even having a lot of distinction, just coming back around here like this and showing a little reflected light in the back of the skull. Now that's really almost going to be completely what I would like this to be, without a lot of definition. Okay, I'm satisfied with that very much. Okay, now I've got that sweater in there for the basic coat. Now I'm going to come around here, and you're going to be amazed now as this comes together in the next 10 minutes or so. Okay, now let me blow dry this again real quickly. Now since I've got this fella basically blocked in, if you'll pardon me for a second, I'm going to just go ahead. Now notice, if you can't see this, I had mentioned I made a mistake and brought that up too high that way. Well, I came back now with my electric little small battery operated eraser and corrected that, and I think it looks a lot better. Okay, now we're going to come in like this, bring it out, and let's just give him a little tummy there like that. Look, he's well fed, as we all are in New Orleans. Okay. Now we'll come back around like this. Now I'm going to stop long enough. That's going to be the other side of my sweater. We'll take a moment, and I'm going to go make a color copy of this man. And that way I'll be able to run a copy of it, and you'll see exactly what we're going to do in the first stage. Okay, I think we're at a point now where we can go ahead and go in for the conclusion on this. Now, when I made that little correction, I erased a lot of it, believe it or not, that I didn't like with the electric eraser, but I don't like the colors that I use. I got it a little darker. So before I start on this, I'm just going to come back. You won't have to do this. And I'm going to texturize it a little bit, just get some of the stuff off of you. And I can do other things later to take care of that. Okay, now we're going to go in for the final part of this. Now, I like to really introduce pretty colors in the shadows. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in for that white shirt. Let's put the basic shadow on that. Now that's where I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of my alizarin crimson. So we're going to do this, like get a little bit on the palette here. And that alizarin with the ultramarine blue is just perfect for what we're going to be doing. Okay. Let's just get the ultramarine and that alizarin now. It'll give us that really pretty. I'm going to use a little more blue because it's a white shirt. Now, watch how interesting this is going to look when I come back in with this shadow. Come in like this. Show it like that shirt's faded back like that. It's just pretty. Accomplishes what we want. We can tone it down if we don't like it. And then we're going to come down along the shirt itself, and we're going to take like an area like this, pull it out a little bit, come back in, maybe take another area, and then just kind of show the roundness of that shirt as it goes along here. Got a little part. We don't want to overdo any of this now. Maybe even show a little shadow under that collar there if there is one. And really, I think this will suffice for what we want. So we don't really need to overdo any of this. Now, since I have that alizarin crimson out, I'm going to take a minute now, and I'm going to just put a little more red in those pants. That cadmium, now this is a kind of an orangey, because I remember when this color was big. But again, I like livening it up a little bit. Now, I think you're wondering, you mean to tell me you're just going to let that light hit the front of his shirt there and his clothes and not put any color in at all? I certainly am. One of the cardinal rules of chiaroscuro is the more light, the less color. If you want absolute light, this is how you do it. Now see, this is just going to barely fade through, but I wanted enough of it to where it stands out and we can see it like that. Okay. Now, next thing I'd like to do, I'm going to go in with my ultramarine blue. Now I'm running really out of time here, so I'm going to get a little bit of my black in here to mix with this. And we're going to go ahead and put the finishing touches on the gentleman here, but I am very, very satisfied so far with what we've got. So we're going to take the blue, and then we're going to take the burnt sienna, a little bit of black, and some areas in